So, question on everyone's minds, post Critical Role Campaign 3, does Critical Role still hold its charm? Is Critical Role Campaign 3 good? Was this a solid premiere? Well, yeah. Alright, I'll go into more detail. Critical Role Campaign 3 has a lot of great things going for it, and a lot of things that you can learn for your D&D game, and a lot of just cool details and interesting improvements from previous campaigns that I noticed. So, today, here are my first impressions of Critical Role Campaign 3. Without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so starting out, this campaign takes place in a new location, Marquette. And to go at that new location, we have a new set. Obviously, this new set is amazing. It looks really, really good. It's my favorite one so far. I just love the Tavern aesthetic, the window in the background changing colors and all that. I mean, it's really cool. They've had interesting lighting for the campaigns so far, but this is taking it to a new level, and I'm glad to see they're increasing their production value here. I mean, this really is a full-on show. They're putting on a show here, and they're doing a great job of it. Now, I was a little worried with this bigger set, nicer equipment, their huge growth. I was worried that we lose a little bit of that impromptu game charm that makes Critical Role so good. I'm not just invested in the characters. Critical Role is not simply an audio drama. It still is partially a game. In fact, I would say more than partially a game. I am also invested in the people who are playing this game. I mean, I can see them joke, I can see them laugh, react. That is a lot of what makes the show work so well. Yes, there are times where you are fully immersed in the story, but there are also very tasteful, and that's important, tasteful times where the story breaks and allows the cast to let loose and remind you that this is still a game. I love those moments, and I was worried that they might pull back on that a little bit more going into Campaign 3. I don't know why, that was the vibe I was sort of getting with all of their announcements, but I was 100% wrong on that. The Critical Role charm, the improv nature of the show, the fact that it's a game is still retained in Campaign 3. I'm really happy to see that. I mean, there are jokes, there are laughs, there are moments that break the campaign a little bit and allow the cast to talk with each other like as people with, reactions. It's perfect. Now, there are also times where I'm fully immersed in the story. You switch on and off constantly, and it is great for a show of this length. If I had to listen to the story consistently all the way through, no breaks, no moment to breathe and take some space with a little bit of brevity in a full 4-hour episode, it would be too much. So allowing the cast to have these breaks and allowing the audience to have some breathing room in the story, that is perfect. And I'm glad that Critical Role has kept on with this style of show running. Now, those are the technical show aspects of Critical Role. I frankly expect those to be good. If they changed it, I would be incredibly, incredibly disappointed. But I'm glad to see that they have retained the charm that makes their show work. Now, the setting. I kind of mentioned it earlier, but Marquette is the setting of this campaign. Now, one of the things I was really disappointed by in Campaign 2, and don't get me wrong, Campaign 2 is amazing. I love the Mighty Nine and Wildmount. But I was disappointed when I was going into Campaign 2. I felt like it was Tal'Dorei Plus. I didn't feel like we were in a new place. Like, I was told, you're in a new place. But if Matt had introduced the setting and said, oh, this is just a part of Tal'Dorei that Vox Machina didn't go to, I totally would have bought it. It felt just like more Tal'Dorei, which is not a problem. Tal'Dorei was cool, Wildmount is cool, and both locations, Tal'Dorei and Wildmount, became very distinct as their respective campaigns went along. But immediately, right off the bat, I did feel like we're just in the same place again. Now, of course, I'm already seeing the keyboard warriors. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Those settings are cool, like I said. But when I'm introduced to a new campaign, the novelty and the fun of getting into a new setting, a setting that truly feels unique and foreign, that is interesting to me. And I felt like there was a missed opportunity with Wildmount in that regard, because, again, it felt like more of Tal'Dorei. But when we get into Marquette, it does so far feel unique. Now, of course, this is just the first episode of a campaign I'm assuming is going to be over 100 episodes, so we'll see how that progresses. Matt Mercer describes the setting in a way that really makes it feel special. It makes it feel like this is a different place. I mean, this does not sound like a place that's just chilling in Wild Mount. It feels like somewhere in a different continent. Marquette, in this case. It works really, really well. I hope that that uniqueness continues, and not just continues, but is exemplified. We're in a new space that is taking inspiration from cultures that I don't think get spotlighted enough in D&D. D&D often takes a very, very narrow slice from medieval history, the same generic fantasy we see so often. And again, I think that works, but I think you're really missing a trick if that's all that you take inspiration from. Marquette takes inspiration from many different cultures that, like I said, I don't think get spotlighted enough. And I really hope that Matt really leans into that, because I think it can make a really strong campaign and an even stronger setting. And not only that, I think that it can inspire other people to do the same thing. Critical Role has inspired many DMs and their games. And I think that if Matt Mercer continues on this path, makes this setting truly something special, it can inspire other people to follow in his footsteps and give cultures that don't often get spotlighted in D&D a chance to take the limelight. And I'm really, really excited for that. Alright, the characters. This is something that made the first 2 campaigns. The characters of Critical Role are awesome. I use them as examples a lot for a reason. They're compelling, they're interesting, they're great, they're well performed too, to boot. So, did the characters here work? Well, let's start out with Imogen and Laudna, played by Laura and Marisha respectively. Yes, I had to write some of their names on a sticky note. I am so god-awful with names, and I'm sure I still somehow screwed them up. The VOD hasn't come out yet, leave me alone. Anyway, these 2 are great. They were the first characters introduced into the campaign, and immediately I was happy. I was excited. Now, one thing that made Campaign 2 work so well, and Campaign 1 to a degree, was that the characters had preconceived relationships. They already had relationships written. You know, you had Nott and Caleb are like the big example. You had Yasha and Molly. Their relationships would evolve over the course of the campaign. I mean, Yasha and Molly's relationship got cleaved short, so to speak, but besides that, you can see relationships such as Caleb and Nott's is the best example that I've seen evolve over the course of the campaign, starting out in Session 1. They already have something going there, and it was great to see that Critical Role is continuing this trend into Campaign 3. Imogen and Laudna already have a very close relationship, and I could already see everyone in the community freaking out with joy. The fan art was produced very quickly, let me tell you. And it was great to see. People were excited about these characters, and it was good to see that they were the first ones to be introduced into the campaign. Great stuff. I was already hooked in. It was compelling. I was interested in who these people were, who these people are, and what they're going to do. I'm trying to be vague here, but yes, it was good. Next up, we had Ashton and Fresh Cut Grass, played by Taliesin and Sam. Now, this is where I'm going to talk about the design of these characters. All of them are just brimming with personality. Ashton is this Orc Descent fellow with a crystalline kind of hairdo going on. Fresh Cut Grass is an android with a little roly thing. Imogen has a very distinct look with his purple hair. And Laudna is a Dhampir, so she already looks perfect. It's amazing. The designer did a great job drawing out these characters and making them each very unique, and their personalities are definitely represented in the art. It was great, great stuff. Great to see. And a tip here, if you can afford it, if it's within your budget, hire someone to commission your D&D party. I did this for my campaign diary series, but even if I wasn't doing that, I mean, I would probably still commission the rest of the party, because it is honestly the best thing I've ever done. Just getting to see what they look like, even just waist up, is really, really important for immersing yourself in the game. I mean, it helps to like form a sort of animated movie in your head about what is happening in the game. Having that art done, it really helps with that. So if it is within your budget, I definitely recommend getting art of your party commissioned. Now, anyway, back to Critical Role. Taliesin and Sam did a great job playing their characters. Their relationship wasn't necessarily as close or as developed as Laudna and Imogen's clearly was. They didn't really brim with that clear history like Laura and Marisha were doing in their roleplay, but they still had a compelling dynamic, and when they joined up with the rest of the group, it was still present, and it made for some great roleplay interaction, so great stuff. I'm really excited to see more of Sam and his character. He always does a great job playing funny characters with serious undertones, so I'm looking forward to seeing how he does that with this character. Alright, so here's the fun part. Liam and Ashley. Liam playing Orem, returning from EXU, and Ashley playing Fern, also returning from EXU. Now, this did not make Twitter very happy, but I think that this is really cool. I am disappointed that they didn't put out messaging while EXU was going on, like, hey guys, these are their characters for Campaign 3. It would have been a great way to market the show, but that's just the marketing guy within me screaming, it doesn't really matter. And also, Matt has put out a statement saying that they made this decision during EXU's run, so it would have been impossible for them to make that announcement anyway, so it doesn't matter. Look, I think that's perfectly fine. In fact, good that these characters get brought back. I don't like it when characters have missing potential, or potential that is lost. While I would be fine if these characters are left behind just in Exandria Unlimited, I'm happy that they get to continue and grow over the course of the campaign. What makes a D&D character work, to me, isn't just the novelty of introducing a new one. If that was the case, I'd be constantly killing off characters and bringing in new ones. No. The novelty, the real charm of a D&D character isn't just bringing in new ones, it's seeing the characters evolve over the course of the campaign. The character growth. That's what makes them special. The interaction they have with the party, the interaction they have with NPCs. We have not seen Orem and Fern interacting with the other members of the party in Campaign 3, obviously, except for this episode. We have not seen them interact with the NPCs Matt has introduced, and already they have a charm and a dynamic that's being built over the course of Campaign 3, which is good. I don't need them to be new characters for me to be invested. I'm already invested because Liam and Ashley are playing them very, very well. And I'm excited to see how they interact with these brand new characters that have been introduced. Now, when Orem and Fern made their appearance, I was concerned because I was worried that there would be a lot of EXU references that were mandatory for me to understand Campaign 3. That was concerning to me. Would major plot beats from EXU be carried over into Critical Role Campaign 3? That would have been bad, because I do not like it when a show requires me to watch a different show in order to understand what's happening. I hate that. I hate it very much. There are exceptions, of course, like if I'm watching the sequel to something and I didn't watch the previous movie, like that makes sense to me. But I thought EXU was supposed to be a spin-off, a separate thing. I wouldn't be pleased if a spin-off was necessary viewing for one of the main shows, especially since each campaign, at least to my knowledge, is supposed to be mostly on its own, except for a few references. But luckily, Matt has clarified that EXU is not, nor will ever be, required viewing for Campaign 3. So far, they have stuck to their guns on that. In this first episode, I never felt confused because I didn't keep up with EXU. So that is good. Great stuff. Thank you, Matt, for doing that. It shows that they really understand their audience and understand that Critical Role as is a lot to take in because of just how much content there is. So, not requiring you to watch other campaigns to understand what's happening is great. However, from what I understand, you are rewarded if you watch EXU. The perfect balance, as it should be. Now finally, Travis's character. I haven't told you guys this, but I have been part of a select group of individuals. A group of individuals that believe in one man, Bertrand Bell. The second he was introduced in The Searcher for Grog, I fell in love with his empty charisma. And I felt that this character, he had such potential, but it was unrealized, it was untapped. He was overshadowed by the legendary members of Vox Machina, but I believed that given the opportunity, Bertrand Bell could shine as a character in his own right. I was certain that when the Terry and Darrington one-shot was announced, I would see Bertrand as a part of the Darrington Brigade. But I was mistaken, for when the artwork was revealed, Bertrand was not there. I began to lose faith. I will not lie. Many of the faithful left the cause, but the stars told me that Bertrand would return. The stars did not lie. Bertrand has returned as a mysterious old man who knows more than he's letting on. Character trope. Excuse me.
Yes!
I am so hyped for this. This is one of my favorite character tropes. I love the mysterious old man. My favorite example is Saint Germain, whether it's the simp Saint Germain of the Castlevania anime or the mysterious time-traveling old man in the Castlevania games. I love this character trope. Now, of course, given Bertrand's, empty charisma, he might be just faking this. He probably doesn't actually know more than he's letting on, or at least not to the degree that Saint Germain did. But just seeing Travis play this character trope as Bertrand is really good. It fits him very, very well. The style, the fashion, the charisma, it's perfect. It's all there. I am so excited to see this character return. I think that this return, if you're complaining about Bertrand Bell coming back, I will find you, okay? You must be converted to one of the believers, because I am so excited for Travis's character, Bertrand, to be here in Campaign 3. I'm going to continue watching. I'm hyped just for this. God, when he appeared, you bet that I freaked the hell out. This is amazing. So good job on Travis for bringing this character back, and I'm hoping really making him something more than just the comic relief that he was in Search for Grog. I'm really, really excited for that development. Now, before the campaign ever came out, before the episode was ever released, I actually recorded a bit of a rehearsal for this because I figured I would know a lot of what I was going to say here. The characters were good, the setting was good, blah, 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 blah. That all carried over. But one thing that I said was that I wouldn't be able to address all my criticisms of Campaign 2 or 1 because this is just the first episode. One of those main criticisms being that they didn't bring in enough guests in previous seasons. I really hope that going into this campaign, they're going to bring more guests in, because I think guests are a really cool part of these campaigns, something that really adds something to the show. Obviously, though, they're not going to bring a guest into Critical Role Campaign 3 Episode 1. It's just the first episode. Right? Obviously, a guest was brought into the show. Dorian made a return from EXU as well, along with Fern and Orem, and this was cool. I really like this. Now, obviously, I like it when guests are new people with new characters, or at least just new characters with people who have guests previously. I think that that's cool as well. But this was the right way to do it for the first episode. If they brought in a brand new person with a brand new character, it would be confusing. Some people already think that Dorian is part of the party permanently, which he's not. He's a guest character. So bringing in someone brand new, that would have been even more confusing because people would just assume that this is a new member of the cast. But yeah, I'm happy to see Dorian here. He's a fun addition to the party, at least here temporarily. His presence didn't really need to be game-changing, especially here in the first episode. I'm just glad to see him here and spice up the show a little bit. It's great stuff and a cool carryover from EXU, along with Fern and Orem, just kind of easing them into the new campaign. So, great stuff. Overall, this is just a really strong start to the series. I am very excited for what Matt and the cast do next. I encourage you guys to watch it yourself. I did not talk about any plot details here. It's Matt Mercer. You kind of expect his sessions to be run well, so I didn't really critique what happened in the session because, it's Matt Mercer and I'm me. So it's a good session and I don't want to spoil any of it for you. So please go watch it if you're interested. If you like Critical Role, you're gonna like this. If you guys enjoyed this episode of Crispy's Tavern, then please do leave a like. If you want to see my other content, I'll do many reviews like this. But if you want to see more of my D&D stuff, then please subscribe to my channel. And finally, leave a comment down below if you are so inclined. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment, "Is it Thursday yet?" to let me know you made it to the end of the video. And that's just like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell.